Two Detroit landlords have had enough of the eviction moratorium and are going after the housing court judge. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. Alright, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of Detroit, Michigan. Not known as being one of the most landlord-friendly places, but, there's a couple of landlords there who are fighting back after they've had to suffer through this entire eviction moratorium. But before I get into that article, go ahead, hit that like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below, and let me know what you want to see on this channel. I'm going to work to keep bringing you articles about the eviction moratorium and other news that's of interest to landlords. So, this article comes out of DetroitNews.com, and it says, two Detroit landlords sue in federal court over the eviction moratorium. Yeah, I'm glad to see that there are more landlords out there fighting back, okay? And they're not just fighting against the city of Detroit. They're also fighting against the judge who is actually impeding evictions by going out of their way and closing down the entire housing court. But let's see what the article says about the issue. Two Detroit landlords filed a lawsuit Sunday against 36th District Court in Detroit and the court's chief judge for putting a halt to evictions until October 3rd. JPA Holdings, LLC, and Sandeep Gosal filed a lawsuit against the court and Chief Judge William McConaughey for the evictions ban in the city, calling the move unconstitutional and the taking of private property. This action is brought to address the taking of private property by the judge and 36th District Court without just compensation, the lawsuit claimed. The landlords are seeking a class action status. There we go. That's what I've been talking about, okay? Class action lawsuit against the city for not following their own rules, okay? Not following the law and sitting here with this unlawful eviction moratoriums, and it's just not right. I've been saying that for quite a while. Now they're going straight after using the Fifth Amendment the way that I think it should have been used for quite a while, and they're going after this judge who shut down the housing court on top of that. The first federal moratorium on evictions was issued under the Trump administration in 2020 in an effort to stem the spread of COVID-19. The moratorium since has been extended 5 times. The current ban against evictions was issued August 3rd under a Center for Disease Control and Prevention order and lasts until October 3rd. McConaughey announced August 4th that he would start scheduling hearings for landlords, but reversed himself the same day after the CDC issued an advisement of an extension of the evictions moratorium. Yeah, I mean, this is what it really comes down to, okay? We have judges, etc., who are actually going against the Constitution of the United States and completely shutting courts down, not allowing any evictions to happen, even for people who don't qualify for the CDC eviction moratorium. And that's what the real issue is right there. Let's talk about people who can't be evicted who had eviction orders from before the moratorium began. People can't be evicted who don't qualify for the moratorium. Nobody can be evicted if the housing court is closed. So you're punishing landlords who cannot receive compensation because their tenants don't qualify. So yeah, I mean, that is part of the reason why this whole thing needs to just be thrown out. And we need to go straight after these courts, these judges, these local governments, the state governments, and the federal government for putting this in place. Michigan is among the states that have had substantial and severe rates of transmission of the virus, including the Delta strain. The landlords argue in the lawsuit that the district court has also commenced to administratively adjourning all hearings pertaining to orders of eviction until after October 3rd, 2021, thereby prohibiting any order of eviction from being entered, regardless of whether a tenant has sought protection under the CDC order, and regardless of whether a tenant qualifies for protection under the CDC order. See, that's just what I just said, okay? So regardless of whether the tenant qualifies or is applying or not, these landlords can't get rid of these tenants because they just completely adjourned all the court cases. They closed the court down. That is the most blatant, unlawful thing I've seen, okay? And this is happening all throughout the country. So why should we keep a tenant in this property who has no right to protection under the CDC eviction moratorium? That's my question for this judge, okay? Tell me why. you have no answer because, simply put, there is no answer. So even if you were using the CDC eviction moratorium as an excuse, you're out of line. Okay, but the fact of the matter remains that it's still an unconstitutional order and it still needs to be shut down. The landlords claim that the halted evictions amount to compensable taking of plaintiffs' property and property rights without just compensation in violation of the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution. Specifically, the directive to ban all evictions constitutes a physical taking because it has affected a government-authorized physical invasion, occupation, or appropriation of plaintiffs' private property for the government itself or for third parties. Gosal, according to the lawsuit, sought to remove tenants from a property he owns in the 16800 block of Lenore. He first went to 36th District Court in March 2020 seeking to evict his tenants. He was not seeking money, he just wanted his property back, the lawsuit said. Gosal has had his hearing adjourned several times and now must wait for the moratorium to be lifted to resolve the matter, the lawsuit said. Yeah, that's pretty bad. Okay, so right there it says that he's had his hearing adjourned many times and he's been trying since March of 2020. So we are 15 plus months beyond that date. No rent received, unable to get this eviction hearing, unable to get this tenant out of his property, still having to pay for repairs, still having to pay taxes, still having to pay insurance, etc. Okay, maybe the tenant hasn't even applied for rental assistance. And even if the tenant has applied for rental assistance, maybe the landlord doesn't like the stipulations of the rental assistance that says that you can't get rid of that tenant if you accept it. So yeah, you've put this landlord in an awful situation and they can't do anything. But let's see what the story for this other landlord is. JPA Holdings, which has property in the 7400 block of Dolphin Street, obtained a judgment of possession against the occupants on February 19, 2020, just prior to the pandemic in Michigan. After more than a year, the 36th District Court entered an order of eviction, allowing JPA to take the Dolphin Street property on July 28, 2021. But a week later, on August 4th, the court prohibited officers from executing orders of eviction. So the second landlord now has been waiting even longer. And it looks like the second landlord had an order of eviction from February of 2020. No, a judgment of possession since February of 2020. And it took more than a year because the court closings and them dragging their feet. It took more than a year to get that order of eviction for the second landlord. And now, finally, when they get that order of eviction, you're thinking, okay, we can finally, after 15 plus months, closer to 18 months, get this tenant out of my property, get somebody in here who's paying. They shut the court down, prohibit all evictions again, okay, all the way until October. So the landlord's taking thousands of dollars or more losses because of this, okay? And there's pretty much no way this landlord's going to get any of this money back. So this court is directly to blame for that. I hope that this goes all the way to the Supreme Court. I hope that this does become a class action lawsuit and that other landlords are allowed to join, because this is happening all over the country. Okay, the CDC eviction moratorium is causing this mess, and landlords, we need compensation for the damages that we've been getting because of these ridiculous laws that these local and state governments have put in place. So, man, it says the suit claims, as a practical matter, a property owner has little ability to collect past due rent from a tenant with little money, or a tenant that simply moves out at the end of the moratorium after occupying the property for months free of charge. The result, the plaintiffs say, is to keep a property owner from releasing the property to a new tenant, or from even selling the property, as no reasonable person would purchase a property with occupants that are not obligated to pay rent. Yeah, it's going to be hard as hell to sell this property, and you're going to sell it at a substantial loss if you have tenants in there who aren't paying rent and they're just tearing the place up, and you're just bound by all these bills caused by this tenant indefinitely due to these indefinite eviction moratoriums. So I know they say it's going to end in October, but who's to say they don't extend it again and again and again, expecting landlords to foot the bill for the homeless population, for the low-income population, and become essentially social service providers for every single person who is unable to pay their rent or has, financial problems. So yeah, this is really good news. The rest of the article, it kind of goes into a more tenant friendly and trying to rip apart this lawsuit. I'm not even going to read the rest of it, okay? And I'm just going to tell you my opinion right now. I believe this is a good thing. I want this to become a class action lawsuit. I do agree with them that it is a Fifth Amendment violation, amongst other things, and I hope that this judge gets a nice slap upside the head from the legal system when he finds out that he's been violating the law.